Discipline, choosing behaviors to help me reach my goals.
I'm Nicole Ferry. I'm the Executive Director of Strategy at Sullivan. We're a brand engagement firm. We do positioning and design work for institutions and companies, and we're in New York City. We've worked with the School of American Ballet. 98% of the New York City Ballet comes from the School of American Ballet. And the discipline those kids have, they don't get to perform a lot. It's not like your local dance studio where every year you have a recital, and these kids are professional artists, essentially, from a very young age. But what they're doing on a day-to-day basis is going to class and doing the exercises. And they're doing that for years and years and years so that ultimately they can perform. And I think it's similar. You have to do all of the equivalent of the branding grunt work, so you have that under your belt so that when you get to a certain level and you have all of that down, you can perform. I think discipline sometimes gets a bad rap, particularly in creative kinds of businesses and endeavors, because it feels too rigorous. But it's only when you have the rigor that you can actually perform, ultimately, and you have the freedom to come up with creative ideas.
When we think about discipline, it's often we think about it of how do I avoid doing something I don't want to do. And that is important, but for a lot of people, learning how to be disciplined is really about how do I unlock my potential. And so when I think about my dad, who was a football coach forever, he was working on discipline, trying to have his players be convinced that learning how to do something right and being able to repeat that again and again and again gave them the ability to succeed. Well, he was right. And the same is true for us at work. The discipline of learning how to greet people in the morning when you may not feel like it, the discipline of getting up and doing the hard thing, those ways of thinking, that belief that me being disciplined is a way for me to find success is true, and it's something that grows with time. So the choice to be a person that understands discipline and applies it to their life unlocks opportunities for your future.
Often when you are just reacting, that is when you are only focused on you and your thoughts and your context and all of that. I think to have the ability to pause and figure out, that's not the way I would do it, but why are they doing it in that way? And giving yourself the permission to not react and sometimes say, you know what, that's not the way I would think about it, but give me a minute and let me think about it. Or let me go away and consider the intent of what you're asking me to think about, and I'll come back to you with an answer.
Sometimes our initial response isn't the best response. Psychologists might think of this as a cool response or a hot response. A hot response being largely emotional, a cool response being more one that is measured and thought through. One of the things that you're trying to develop over time is the habit of not just responding in the moment, but to be able to hit the pause button for a second, step back, and think through, where is this going? So it's not just enough to assess what's happening, it's the ability to see what's happening and then imagine if I responded the way that I should respond, what would occur? And so to take a moment and allow yourself to regain composure is an important part of being a disciplined person.
For the most part, everybody is geared towards the work. Everyone's trying to make the work better, and if it's a critique, and we critique in a group our strategies, we critique our creative work, it's kind of the nature of what we do. All of it is always done for the goal, using all of the unique perspectives, to get to just better work. And I think sometimes when somebody reacts with emotion and it's personal, it feels odd and out of place, because instead of everyone working for the greater good, it's, no, this is about me. And I think to the extent that you can keep the me out of the work's going to be better, working relationships are going to be better, and everyone's going to have a better time too.
When you think about controlling your emotions with a difficult customer, with a difficult meeting, whatever it may be, When I'm choosing to control my emotions, it means that I'm in charge, that I'm allowing my brain to really guide me through what's the best way to handle this situation. The choice to control your emotions is one that is developed over time. But imagine when you first started working, perhaps the customer came in who was really upset about something and you responded right back to them. Not only did it hurt them potentially, it definitely hurt you. And so over time, I'm learning that controlling my emotions allows me to have a better outcome, but it's a choice that I have to make. I have to be aware that my emotions can mislead at times and then respond accordingly.
My dad was in the military, so you might think that kind of the discipline instilled was from him. But my mom taught me the importance of a list and finishing a list. I have continued that tradition, and I didn't mean to. I think it was just kind of you do what you see growing up. And I've read articles that to-do lists, everyone should kill their to-do lists because that doesn't work. But I will tell you, if it is on my list, I will do it no matter what. And I thank my mom for that.
In 1972, there was a study where they brought in children who were kindergartners or so, and they gave them one marshmallow. And the person who gave them the marshmallow said, if you will wait for me to return, I'll bring you a second marshmallow, or you can eat the one that you have. The person left, and then the kids had to make a choice. Do I take the one that's in front of me, or do I wait for the possibility of the second? Most kids ate the one in front of them. 15 minutes later, the person came in and gave some of the kids the second one. It was an interesting study on discipline and willpower. But what was most interesting is what happened to the kids as they would study their lives over the next 40 years. Not only did those kids have much higher test scores, have greater opportunities, and go on to careers that would provide them greater opportunities financially, etc., those people, those young people who grew up, they had learned the value of being disciplined, and throughout life, it had a great impact on them. It doesn't matter when we start. All of us can start at some point choosing to live the life that we prefer, the life that we want. That requires discipline, and discipline is something that can be learned.
Remember these points. Pause and think before you act. Control your emotions and build healthy habits.